Oh, not really. The film was what I saw, and you know, the first half was a half that could have been closer, but it wasn't, and then we kind of got wore down, and they executed, and they're still a good football team. They look very good on film, as they did on live, and hats off to them. They were better than us, and they beat us. I don't know, and they're aware of it. You don't have to talk about it a whole lot, but you pretty much treat each team differently, and each year is a new year. But they're aware of what has taken place the last 2 years, just like they were against Sam. So, that's there, and you don't really have to use it as motivation. It takes care of itself as the week goes on. I think there was I don't know, panic. I think there was some disappointment that the game got away. It didn't feel physically as if it was getting away as much as it did on the scoreboard, but it did get away. And when you're not preparing to lose, you're preparing to try to win, and it gets away, it's tough. It can be tough, and that's just part of it. I told the players that it was a tough day. I wish I could tell them that's the last time in their life they're going to have to deal with something like that, but it's not. It's never pleasant. I said, I don't like having to give these types of talks, and y'all don't like to hear them. I said, but, coaches do. I was taught this, and I teach it to them, and it is true that football does mirror life, and you can take some of the examples of things that happen to you in football and carry them over in life, and this is one of them. I mean, we got kind of punched in the stomach Saturday, and we didn't like it, and it was tough, but we got to deal with it, and we got to deal with it right, and that's part of life. Is how you bounce back and how you handle adversity, and we got to make sure that I and our coaches and our players all handle it properly. That's what we got to do. Well, I got to go home, and I actually got home about the time they were kicking off with McNeese, and I watched every play on television, which, again, is very good. You could really see their no-huddle offense that you really don't get to see on the film because it kind of starts and stops as the plays go along, but you can see just how fast they were lining up and running the balls, and I think they ended up running 100 plays Saturday night, and it's very fast-paced. Attaway is doing a really good job running their offense. All their running backs run hard. Their running game is what caught my eye the most. They're a vastly improved running team over last year. They're not a one-dimensional team. So offensively, they're going to create you a lot of problems. Now, what you'd like to do is keep their offense off the field, but defensively, they're very good. And it's not like they're just an offensive football team. Very competitive game. I was impressed with both teams watching that game live on television. But they're just a good, sound team, arguably the best offensive team we're going to play in our league. And I'm not knocking anybody else's offense, but they can light up the scoreboard on you quick. Well, nobody, I think, blitzes as much as Sam Houston. They're not a big blitzing team, but they will blitz. It's like they're not going to just give you one look all the time, but they're more in line with what Central Arkansas does defensively, that they're more of a base defense, and then they blitz a little bit to mix it up to confuse you, but they're not just a straight man, bring them all the time type of team. He's playing well. It's not just him. They got a number of young men over there that can play, but Collins, one of them, he can fly around and he makes good plays. And they're a good football team. They beat Central Arkansas and narrowly lost to McNeese and scored a lot of points and was close with Sam Houston. And they're a good football team. I'm telling you that whoever ends up third or fourth in this league this year, there's been years gone by they could have won it. This is a tough league from top to bottom. There's a lot of talented teams in this league this year, and they're one of them. Well, first thing we're going to do, we're going to make sure that we are ready physically. It was a tough physical game Saturday. Defensively, we know they're going to get somewhere between 85 to 100 snaps regardless. That's what they do. We got to make sure that we have our legs with us and that we're well rested. So we'll be cutting back on the physical nature of practice some, even though we do have to put some in. But defensively, we got to get ready for the no-huddle attack. And to do that, it's going to take great work by our scout teams and our coaches to prepare our players. And then offensively, we're going to have to control the line of scrimmage, and we're going to have to make plays in our passing game to offset our running game, which is improving. But we can't get choked off in the passing game. We can't become one-dimensional. And then we got to have a good, sound, solid game out of our kicking game. The last 2 weeks, probably the only fault I can find with our defense. We played 2 games where we had no turnovers. We got to create some turnovers in field position for our offense, and our kicking game's got to kick in. And we're going to have to play well in all 3 phases. We're going to have to prepare well in all 3 phases. I don't know if I answered your question or not. I hope so. I hope so. I mean, it was 50-50 Saturday, but he wasn't 100%, and with our other running backs playing as well as they are at this time, I just didn't think it was the thing to do was to push him back too soon. But hopefully, we'll start finding out tomorrow. But hopefully, he'll be able to go by Saturday. First, you want your team disappointed after a game like that. I mean, you don't want them just to blow something like that off, and you got to take it to heart. You got to take it personal. I know I do. Secondly, you look to the leaders that you look to all year, and we've had good leadership. I don't expect there to be a problem to prepare to play this week. I think we will bounce back mentally, but I want them down a little bit, and we'll get up a little bit more each day as the week goes on. But that's, unfortunately, that's part of football. That's part of life. It's how you bounce back and how you handle adversity. And this is one of the lessons they will learn playing football that will carry over into life. And a lot of people are successful or not successful in life by how they choose to handle the tough times and adversity. And we got to all handle it right. And we got to understand, it's something I talked about, that coaches are on edge and players are on edge and emotions are high, and that's fine. But we got to understand that's within each other, and it's not time to lash out. It's time to really come together and work together to work through this, because ultimately, number one, it's my fault. It's on my shoulders, and that's fine. And from there, I'm going to communicate with our coaches, and they're going to do a good job, and they're going to communicate with our older players, and they're going to do a good job with our younger players, and it just trickles right on down, and we're going to have to all do a good job with this. And this isn't the last time we'll have to handle something like this, but we do want to respond, and we do want to go on. We got 3 huge games left. They're all 3 big. Our season is not over. We got a lot to play for, and I fully expect us to come out and play with the same intensity and the same effort we played with all year. Well, I think this team is better at handling that than the previous 2. I think we're more mature in that area. Some of these players have been together a little longer, and that helps. But every week, I know I've said this, and it kind of sounds like a broken record, but I really mean it. Every week, I am prepared to have to do more than I really end up having to do, because the team takes care of a lot of it, and their attitude's been very good, and their work ethic's been very good, and I fully expect to see them to show up tomorrow and work hard and prepare to play. Oh, just the physical nature of the games. These are both rival schools. These are both schools that will rub your nose in it if they get your chance, because they almost have to. It's what's expected. And we got to understand that that's the way it is. And we have to be prepared for that, and we have to be prepared to play. And if you don't want a game to get out of hand, don't let it get out of hand. And what they're doing is within the rules, and what they're doing, we don't like sometimes, because we don't like getting beat like that, but that's just part of it. And we got to handle it, and we got to get better at it.
Who rubs your nose in it? Is it the team?
I'm just saying, well, just the whole thing. You feel like when it goes that you don't like it, and I don't mean, I'm not finger pointing or accusing anybody. I'm just saying that's just part of it. When you're young and your program's not where you want it to be, and you play those type of games, it's tough sometimes, but you can't let it define you, and you got to move on, and that's what we try to do. I don't really listen to it. I just know it's out there. I don't, it's just part of it. It's just the way it is, and it carries over into recruiting. It carries on to other areas, and that's something that we have to overcome.
Does it impact recruiting?
Well, sure it does. Scores of games and things like that. In recruiting, and that's what I hope people understand. In recruiting, you use anything and everything you can, anything positive and negative you can use, and that's part of it. It just goes with it.
Have you lost any players, you think, to Stephen F. because of the scores?
Well, I don't know about just the scores, but I think it's tough when you're recruiting sometimes against established programs that have trophies and championships, and you don't have any, and it's the promise of things. There is a recruiter too that will say, I want to go in an established program if I have my choices. Some like the fact that they can come here and be part of something new and something growing. So it goes back and forth. But yeah, and like I said, all coaches recruit a little differently, but all recruits are a little different. But yeah, a good recruiter will use anything and everything he can within his power on a recruit, and that's part of it. And I know fans and people show up for games and see how competitive coaches are. We're just competitive during recruiting season. It's amazing the stories and things that go on. It's just part of it. It's the way it is. You know, I enjoy it. I like getting in there. I enjoy recruiting just as much as I do football season. You can bet Oklahoma, if it's between Oklahoma and UT for a recruit, they're going to bring up the score of that game this year. That's true with any rival if we're going head-to-head with somebody. If we go head-to-head with Sam Houston on a recruit, that score will be brought up. And if we beat them by that score, we bring it up too. That's just part of it. It's just the way it goes. Y'all understand that?